I think it's pretty safe to assume that when you read this chapter, you will be absolutely speechless. At least for me it was. Like, this chapter, beyond all reasoning, was honestly incredible. I was in awe. How everything flowed so fluently throughout the entirety of the chapter from start to finish. And Isayama has been giving us some phenomenal chapters over the past couple of months, but this one just kind of takes the cake for everything. Like, a lot of the questions that we had surrounding Yamiya and who she was and where she comes from and what she is specifically is finally getting some answers. But they're not just given to us in some text format, they're given to us with so much emotion, so much atmosphere, so much heartbreak. Going back and starting with Yamiya, what she went through specifically was such a difficult thing, and it brings in this whole new perspective that we never knew about. For the longest time, we've had this skewed timeline on who's right, who is wrong, what the history truly is and what it truly isn't, and we've never really had concrete answers for the history that was being told to us. We had so many different people and so many different perspectives tell us that this happened, that this person was this evil or this person was this good, but now we see it from where it fully started, where it truly started, in the hands of Yamiya. I think it's almost impossible to go through this chapter and not feel sorry for what Yamiya has gone through. And I think it contrasts so beautifully with how Isayama set her up just recently within the past couple of chapters, finding out that she was a slave to royal blood, but it goes so much more deeper than that. Main portion of this chapter is showing her childhood, the brutality of war, two nations caught at odds end at one another, trying to obliterate one another, trying to get that advantage to any extent they can over one another. But there's something a lot more important here, and human nature comes into play as people come to find themselves at the brink of humanity and trying to survive within this very vicious world. They lose that sense of humanity. Even though Yamiya is kind of depicted as a very kind girl that will do anything for her people, she was thrown into this by her people. She was betrayed. The Eldian group that Yamiya was a part of when she was a child was nothing more than barbaric, that treated her and her surrounding people as slaves. But then her own people turned on her and pointed her out because no one else wanted to take the blame for supposedly letting these piglets out. And from there, the spiral starts. The emotion sets in for her. But prior to this, you get this very atmospheric context for what the world is truly like and how harsh it truly is. The way Yamiya is depicted, her facial expressions are very rough and gritty, and just how Isayama goes to showing what she was going through before even being pointed out by her own people is very harsh. And you knew that, and it becomes 10 times worse. In this moment of being pointed out, she gets quote-unquote set free, and this is what the king of that time was telling her. After torturing her and potentially doing all of this other horrendous stuff to her, she was set free, but as more so as an amusement for the Eldian tribe or the people back then to chase her down and kill her, but have a bit of fun with it, showing the brutality of human nature back then. Mind you, she's innocent. She definitely wasn't the one to let those pigs out of the cage, and yet this is how she was being treated, for amusement, as a game. Even within this game of her escaping and trying to run away, as injured as she was, she's still pushing forward, which shows a very strong side of her character. And I can't reiterate how this, like I said before, contrasts extremely well with the character that we seen prior. Someone that is a slave to royal blood following around Zeke's orders, with Zeke ordering her to use the ability of the Founding Titan to start the euthanasia plan, but she couldn't be stopped. And that was where we left off in the previous chapter, with Eren trying to change her mind, trying to stop her. And we see that directly within this chapter, but we back it up with all of this history, with all of this past, and seeing this side of Yamiya, even though there's so much struggle within there, even though she's been through so much, she still has this strong independent side to her, where she doesn't want to give up, where she will escape and she will move forward, and she keeps trying till she finds the day that she can. Upon escaping from these people that are just tormenting her at this point, she stumbles across a tree, and this tree stands out completely among the others. In terms of what this tree actually is and what it holds is something else entirely. This is where everything started. She walks into this tree, which has like a cave-like structure within it or underneath it, and she falls into water or Titan fluid or whatever it could be, and she connects with what we know as the first kind of spinal cord. Pretty much the best way to describe it. It's a spinal cord that has a lot of resemblance to the structure of Titans, and we've seen it a lot of different times actually with correlation of Historia, actually. I think there is a volume cover of Historia where she's about to inject herself, but over her is an arching Titan skeleton. It's kind of a resemblance to that. Within this kind of limbo state that she's in, this spinal cord connects with her, and this is when she turns into like the first Titan. She completely bursts out and obliterates the tree that she was in, and people just watch in awe. They don't know what this is. However, from this, she goes back to the people that were treating her so poorly. She was indirectly a slave to these people and had nowhere else to go, so she finds herself coming back with this power. And the same person that quote unquote set her free, that tortured her and tormented her, is the same person that is now using her, using this newfound Titan ability to make structures and build roads and civilizations and use her as a weapon against Marleyans. There's a bit of time that traverses through here as she's a lot older now, but she also gets burdened with the responsibility of bearing his children, 3 children specifically. These 3 children would be called Maria, Rose, and Sheena. Obviously direct connection to the walls of paradise. What's so crazy about this interaction is that even though she came back, even though she was being used for all of these different things, and she went on these tirades of being used to destroy Marleyans and fight against them, it was just her. There was no other Titan specifically at this point, I don't believe, and she was the one that had the power to change all of this. However, the king was so forceful and manipulated her so well, so viciously, so tragically, made her bear these 3 children. This correlates back to the ideology of King Fritz and how royal blood has such a prominent and dominant effect over the subjects of Ymir, that people of royal status have so much influence and power. Because even after all of this, there's an interaction that takes place where Ymir jumps in front of the king to save him. The same person that's been torturing her, putting her through hell and put her in this position to begin with, she saved him. A spear was thrown at him by Marleyans, and she took it. This is what actually killed her, a spear. And even in those last moments of her life, the king felt nothing from it. He's seen a tool that he's been using for so long disappear in front of him, and that's what he was worried about. He did not care about Ymir at all. No one cared about Ymir at all. And this is important to understand, that no one understood her, that she was being used and no one cared for her. The 3 children that she had, Maria, Rose, and Sheena, would go on to cannibalize on their mother that just died pretty much in front of them to inherit their power. The king would push this onto these 3 children, and the panel that we get is so grim, so heart-wrenching, that it just leaves you in shock. Like, this is what happened to Ymir. Even after death, she is being desecrated and cannibalized on by her own daughters, just so they can inherit this power that they know nothing about. And this is when the cycle continues. This is where the cannibalism takes place, and when the king evidently dies, he pushes the 3 children that remain to do the exact same thing over and over again, to bear children and let them eat your spine, continuing to pass down the ability of Ymir specifically through cannibalization, twisting it and tormenting it. And Ymir is a part of it all. We see a direct resemblance of how the coordinates started and how it split off in so many different directions, like a tree, so many different branches. It started off as 1 pillar, and then 3 were birthed from it. And that was when her daughters cannibalized on her. And it grew more and more, and the path started expanding out in so many different directions over so much period of time. This is where everything stood. The coordinate spanning over so many different generations all started at a singular point. We then shift to something that has so much weight and impact that just changes your perspective, the entirety of the situation. Changes your perspective of Eren, Zeke, Ymir specifically. In the context of what we were shown just before at the beginning of the chapter is directly put to use by Eren. Now, a lot of people think that Eren is manipulating her to gain this power, but I think it devalues what this whole chapter is trying to tell you. Eren's ideology this entire time, throughout the entirety of the story, has always been freedom. Because he was born in this world, and that he will do what he can to be free and make people free. And this is directly what Ymir has always wanted, but has never had the opportunity to get it. But now Eren, because of the power that he holds, because he is here in this situation right now, he's trying to set her free. She's not a god, she's not a slave, she's just a human being. These are the words that Eren say that ripple through her, that she doesn't have to serve anyone, that she's free to choose whatever path that she wants. And right behind them is Zeke, Zeke trying to manipulate the situation, seeing his desperation overflow immensely over the whole situation. The contrast between Ymir and the beginning of the context of the chapter that we got between Zeke and between Eren is incredible, where Eren is genuinely showing compassion to Ymir, giving her options and choices. Whatever she wants to do, Eren will support it. Whether you want to stay here forever or end it, it's entirely up to you. This is Eren saying this. And then in the background, we have Zeke trying to order her not to listen, trying to order her to take away the ability to reproduce, claiming that he is a descendant of the royal family. It goes against everything that Ymir hates. Desperation contrasting with compassion, contrasting with a child that has never had that compassion, a child that has always been ordered around by royal blood, but now that strong will is coming back, and Eren has kind of awoken that within her. Eren has brought her back. For the first time, we see her true face, how she truly feels. The face that she makes with the tears running down her eyes is almost indescribable. There's so many different emotions within that face alone. So much sadness and heartache, but so much anger, so much built up aggression, so much torment. There's so many conflicting things within there, but Eren is bringing all of this up and giving her so many different options that she has been waiting all of this time for 2,000 years for someone, and this someone was Eren, for someone to set her free. To end off all of this incredible stuff, we have some phenomenal panels. We jump back to the current time where Eren lost his head when it was shot by Gabi, and we see that very same spinal cord that connected with Ymir at the beginning of the chapter have a similar take with Eren. A massive spinal cord emerges out of Eren's head, almost like a centipede, trying to keep pushing forward, and then the rumbling happens. Everything that Eren has pushed for, everything that Ymir has always wanted and waited for, is now starting to begin. The walls start crumbling around them to reveal the massive titans that reside within, just towering over everyone. But then you also see this honestly speechless final panel of like Eren kind of reforming himself, with like his skeleton kind of like awakening at this point. In the background, you have the wall titans just kind of towering over the top of everything, and then right at the bottom you have a tiny little Gabi. This last panel just concludes everything in such a brilliant way. The design of it is honestly superb. The scale is tremendous. You have this very vicious titan skeleton of Eren and him kind of awakening, his eyes are glowing and this mist everywhere. Like it's honestly an incredible panel. Even though I've been talking about this chapter this whole time, I'm still speechless thinking about it. I still find myself not knowing the right words to say. So much emotion, so much atmosphere. This is such a superb chapter in every single aspect. And Isayama has just raised the bar exponentially. He's been dropping so many incredible chapters, but this one just takes the cake completely and just gives us a bunch of answers to our questions and just leaves us in awe and shock on what's to come. That the rumbling has finally been activated, that Eren is now kind of replaced Ymir to a certain extent, and everything is going absolutely crazy. The origin of Ymir, the truth, the history, the pain, the suffering, everything. There is so much stuff within this chapter, and honestly, I'm extremely excited to see what you guys think about it. I'm sure everyone's going to be freaking out. I'm sure everyone's going to have a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different opinions, which I'm very excited to read. This chapter was superb. I wish I could find a better word to describe it. It was incredible. So with that being said, that is basically it. Let me know how you guys feel about the chapter. I'm sure you guys have a lot on your mind right now, a lot of things that you want to say. I'm very excited to read through everyone's thoughts, that's for sure. The way Isayama handled this chapter was insane. How he handled the characters, the emotion, the atmosphere, it was heart racing to say the least. I was holding my breath the entire time. So I'd really love to hear your thoughts. But I'm actually going to end the video off here. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.